Eyebrows everywhere were raised when the hierarchy at Bournemouth decided to call time on Gary O'Neill as head coach. This was the same Gary O'Neill who'd guided Bournemouth to Premier League safety. So why on earth would they want to sack him? So with that in mind, I get in touch with the US owner of Bournemouth, Bill Foley, whose ice hockey team, the Nuggets, recently won the Stanley Cup. So this is a man who's used recently to success. And on Gary O'Neill, Bill Foley, who was over in California, was quite open and candid. Although it was a tough decision to part company with O'Neill, but this is why they did it.
I'm a big fan of Gary O'Neill. We put him in the position last November or December to give him the opportunity to be the head coach, and he did deliver after kind of starts and stops in the month of January, and then the team began building momentum. And so it really wasn't so much about Gary not doing what he was asked to do. It was more about a particular opportunity to give our football club a different identity. And it came through the coach that we made contact with some time ago and then kind of reinitiated some discussions very recently. And he was enthusiastic about coaching in the Premier League. And we felt it was an opportunity that we had to avail ourselves of. So it was not really so much about Gary not delivering, because I like Gary. I think he's a good man. He's going to land on his feet. He's coming out now with a CV that shows he kept a team from being relegated and kept them in the Premier League. So I believe he's going to be in coaching for a long time, and I believe he's going to do a good job. It's just that we had to make a difficult decision, and we weren't happy to do it. We just felt like it was something we had to do for the benefit of the team, and the team comes first. So that's really the long and short of it. It wasn't about Gary. It was about a different opportunity.
You know, Bill, that some would argue that Gary deserved more loyalty from you as the owner. What would you say to them?
Well, again, we have a philosophy. Team is first, people are a close second, and management third, way down the list. The management being ownership and management. We respect Gary. We respect his feelings. It was not an easy decision. We just felt that we were going to be as successful as we believe we can be in this transfer market, and we're going to change the style of football we played. We needed to go a different direction. So I'm not happy about it. I don't feel good about having someone move on from a position within the club. But it was team first, and it wasn't just my decision. It was a decision made by the analytical staff and by football management in terms of the football club. And we all separately, after thinking about it, we all came to the same conclusion. So it was really a unanimous decision amongst us all. So I think that's the best way I can explain it. And again, I don't want to be viewed as one of these owners that comes in and fires people and goes on and then fires them again. That's not the plan. Our plan is to go with this coach and to give him every opportunity to be successful. And if it means at the end of the year, next year, we're relegated because we made a mistake, then I'll live with it. That's reality. But I believe we're going to be successful with this, with Andoni. I really do.
And Bill, in comes Andoni Iraola, as you say. You've been aware of him for some time.
The football staff has. I don't know La Liga, and I don't know the coaches in La Liga, but our football staff had been aware of him because we were looking for a coach last fall, and we went with Gary. We felt that stability was the best thing for us to do at that point in time. He was one of the coaches that rose to the top in terms of people that we were thinking about. We didn't make formal contact with him last fall, but the football side has kept in touch with him just over the last 6 months or so. And his contract ran out, and he was available, and he was receiving multiple offers from very significant clubs. And we felt like if we're going to do something, this is the time to do it. Do it before the preseason. Have a new coach come in with his new systems, work with our players, give us a chance under his system to add players that we need in certain positions based upon his coaching style and his tactics. So that was really the thought process. And it was a 3 or 4 day, 5 day process that we went through to really make sure we were all on the same page and all thinking the same way.
That was the first part of Bill Foley speaking to me. Part 2 coming up in the next 5 or so minutes. Bill Foley, owner of AFC Bournemouth, speaking over in California on Saturday night. So, Simon, if we were somewhat baffled before regards the reasoning for the parting of the ways between Bournemouth and O'Neill, are you less baffled now when you hear Foley?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic that he's advancing, is that the team becomes before everyone else, but team reflects leadership. And so if the leadership propensity is to make decisions very quickly and to not steep them in the substance of a relationship that's been built over a period of time, then maybe you'll have a team that operates in that particular fashion. I do think it's appropriate for people that own football clubs to avail themselves of the industry that they're in, embrace the knowledge that it brings as quickly as they possibly can. It'll be very interesting to hear or find out who's in his ear and who's leading him to these decisions, because everybody that goes into football clubs will have people that are light upon them very quickly and gain influence with them, whether it's Mendes getting influence with the Chinese guys in Wolves, or whether it's XYZ person that may be guiding some of the football thinking that Todd Bowley has, and so on and so forth. Right? None of us are immune to it, because everyone will accept, and he accepts it, that he's not going to sit there and play possum and hide and seek with himself saying, I've been studying the La Liga.
Yeah.
I've been told by the football people. And it's interesting.
His football team of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see, that sort of thinking. The guy comes with a decent reputation. He's managed a football club that has similarity attached to it in terms of its outlook to Bournemouth. It's a club that is a club of have-nots rather than haves, with all due respect, because it's a smaller club that's been ultimately propelled by good management and good disciplines, and a small club mentality which has now got itself into La Liga for the first time and has stabilised itself there and got 11th in the league. Look, he's nailed his colours to the mast in terms of the way he wants to manage his football club. He's told you he wants a style of football. I kind of feel that that's a dangerous territory for owners to get into, because I think winning football is the most important brand of football, and then you can expand upon that. So I never really like to hear owners talking about a style of football that's playing to a particular gallery. And I understand in this day and age, maybe that's now prevalence.
But on O'Neill, you get more. You get more of an idea of where he's going with it.
Well, I always got the idea in the first place. Of course, when no one saw it coming, the thing that we were surprised about is we didn't see it coming. Right. So now that we've seen it coming, logic then goes, okay, well, why is that? And I don't know how much of a decision-making process Bill was involved in with the appointment of Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill stepped in to fill a gap because Scott Parker opened his trap, got himself in a situation, and they needed a vacuum to be filled. Gary came in, and the team immediately bounced, and got some results, and came back from precarious situations, I think, in games against Nottingham Forest and teams of that nature. And so with that in mind, he gave them an out game. They didn't have to go and find a manager. They could have just, okay, this looks like it's going to get us past it. And then they gave him a reward by saying, okay, we're going to give you an 18-month contract, which means that ultimately you're going to get paid. Now, the guy's a 78-year-old billionaire that's got experience in sports franchises. The American mentality is very different. He tells people he's going to win the Stanley Cup in 6 years. And does it. Now, that means he's put either the structure into that particular sporting franchise to achieve it. And it'll be fascinating to see how he gets on with the Premier League, because this is like no other sporting environment. Forget what you think you know. Forget how much success you've had somewhere else. You've got a group of other people that are equally as well-heeled as you. They've got established football clubs that you can't just break the orthodoxy. Well, but it'll be fascinating to see him have a go.
You're going to hear more from him in a second. Stuart, on O'Neill, do you get it a bit more now?
When I listened to the interview, I thought it was quite an honest interview. I was quite refreshed by an owner turning around and saying, I've no idea who we've brought through the door in the main, but the footballing people around me that are guiding me are suggesting he's very good at his job. There's an honesty there, I think. And if he's had the same conversation with Gary O'Neill, I think all you can ask, if the football club decide to go in a different direction, all you can ask is a level of honesty. I think we got then to explain why they've done what they've done.
As regards the ongoing transfer market and business being done within it, I asked Bill Foley what kind of business Bournemouth may or may not do under this new man in charge, Andoni Iraola.
We're going to be very busy. We've obviously, like all the teams, we do our we set up our targets. We have our team. We have the holes on our team that we need to fill. Unfortunately, with AFC Bournemouth, when I got there, the cupboard was a little bare. We really didn't have the depth on the team that we needed, and we did some good things in the January transfer window. Unfortunately, a lot of those players came on board and they got hurt right away. So we have a lot of really good players, footballers that we brought in the January window, but the opportunities are greater, obviously, in the summer. You've got more time. You've got more opportunity. People are coming to the last year of their contract, and the other teams realize that they need to do something if the player's not going to stay. I believe you're going to be very, very interested in some of the players we bring in. They're probably not what you'd expect from little AFC Bournemouth by the time we're done with our plan this summer.
What are your aspirations for this football club, Bill? Considering the size of it, can it be more than just survival in the Premier League?
Well, I'm absolutely convinced of that. Now, we have to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. We finished 15th. I thought we could have perhaps done a little bit better had we not lost the last 4 games and maybe finished 14th or 13th, because we're right there in terms of points. So we're starting out from a good spot. We have a terrible schedule to start with, so it's going to be people are going to have to be a little bit patient because we're playing some very, very tough teams in the first 6 games or so. But no, my aspirations are to move up in the table every year, but not expect too much. If we can move up a few spots this year and a few spots next year, and then suddenly in 3 years we're 8th or 7th and maybe playing for Europe, those are really my aspirations. So a little more patience this time, not Stanley Cup in 6 like the like the hockey club.
That's interesting. You want to try and do what Brighton have done. You want to try and do what Aston Villa have managed to do. Get yourselves into Europe.
Absolutely, and we can do it. And it's going to take more infrastructure. We've got to do something with our stadium. That's very important. Whether it's a rehabilitation of the existing stadium or building a new stadium, but a modest build. It's 20,000 seats, not 30 or 40,000 seats. Bournemouth doesn't need that. We already we're underway in our training facility, so that's been full construction, full speed ahead now since we've got our final permits a few months ago. So our indoor pitch is well underway, and then we start the first team's training facility. It's also going to be our academy. We're going to move the women's team in there. We have 57 acres that we can deal with in terms of pitches and facilities. That's financed and funded, and so we're looking forward to moving into that facility in the fall of 2024. Then that opens up a lot for us because the current training facility is really where the new stadium would probably be situated, more or less. So we've got to get our team out of its current facility into its new facility, and then everything else can start falling in place. But we're well financed, and we have I have a lot of very loyal partners that have been with me in other endeavors for many years, and we're prepared to go forward and to do what's right for this team in terms of personnel, but also in terms of infrastructure. And I'm excited about it. I'm a builder. I love helping to create things. So I'm right in the right spot.
Bill, I mean, everywhere you look in the Premier League, we see American ownership. John W. Henry at Liverpool, Wes Edens is in at Villa, the Glazers at United, Kroenke in at Arsenal, even Todd Boehly at Chelsea. What do you make of the characterisation, Bill, of American owners? I mean, Boehly for one's been lambasted for suggestions like all-star games.
I try and fit in maybe a little more than some of the other owners, some of the American owners. Although we have some great ones. I mean, John Henry is an unbelievable owner and so successful. And Wes Eden is a good friend of mine. We just spent time together 2 days ago and talked about some of the things he's involved in. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the Premier League, and he's a very common, down-to-earth guy. Grew up in Montana, kind of like me. I grew up primarily in West Texas, so we're pretty common people. So there are a lot of really good American owners, and I know how to be respectful, and I know how to listen and to make our team, make sure we're part of the community. We're not an American club. We're an English Premier League club, and I'm going to keep it that way. We're not changing.
You've been labelled a threat to the English pyramid. You would say in no way are we that. You for one, are in no way that.
No way. No way.
Bill, just finally, with the rise of states and huge money pouring into the Premier League, you look at what's going on at Manchester City, you look at what's going on at Newcastle. Is it a good or a bad time to be an investor in English football, do you think?
Well, I think it's always a good time because, in my view, the lower table teams are really undervalued, and there's a lot of value that can be created. In the NHL, not saying this is what the Premier League should do or not do, we have what's called a hard salary cap, and everyone has to operate within that cap. And if you go over the cap, you can't play players; they sit, and so that has brought a lot of equality, to our league, to our NHL league, and that's why a team like ours in Las Vegas was able to win the Stanley Cup and perform, because we're all operating under the same rules. I would like to see if it would be possible at some point that we have a little more control over the spending, because obviously we can't spend with the sovereigns. I mean, that's just not, we're not competitive. But in the meantime, I believe we can do very well within our own means, and we can improve our club and get better and satisfy our fans and play exciting football. That's the goal, exciting.
But a salary cap, Bill, seems to make sense. And certainly my colleague here, Simon Jordan, is something he talks about a lot, that financial sense, a salary cap should be introduced.
Well, I mean, I'm one guy and one team, one guy, and I'm being respectful for the Premier League and their process and how they run their league. So I'm not the guy to create change. I'm part of the I want to be part of the club, not the outlier.
That was Bill Foley, the US owner of AFC Bournemouth. He also, of course, owns the Knights, the Golden Knights, the Black Knights, who won the Stanley Cup recently. So he's a man who knows what it's like to taste success. And he was speaking exclusively to talkSPORT over the weekend. Simon, a whole bunch of things to look at there. Should Bournemouth fans be optimistic, do you think, after hearing the kind of tone, the measured tone of this man?
Yeah, I mean, I think with every football club, you'll always have a degree of naysayers and reticence, because they'll have a different view on what should have happened to Gary O'Neill, or whether it's an American owning their football club. I would think that listening to someone that is telling you that he believes that this club is capable of playing in Europe and that he wants to increase the opportunity to do so, he wants to build a new stadium, I would have thought that would have been manna from heaven for most Bournemouth fans. I mean, there'll always be some that would turn around and say, yeah. But the guy that he's talking to you about having an active transfer window, interesting that he thinks that the transfer window in the summer gives him more opportunities. It's a more competitive transfer window. It's a bigger spending transfer window often. And it's got more competition in it as a result of more clubs looking around. It's interesting about the idea that Brighton and clubs like Brighton are going to be used as potential look over there and evaluate, because I think you can learn from everybody. I mean, look, good sporting directors, data is only as good as the people that are looking at it. Garbage in, garbage out. If you evaluate data and you want to look at it from a certain point of view, if your eyes aren't educated in the same way that we can have the observation about VAR is only as good as the evaluative perspective that the person that's looking at it. In this instance, if you've got very good people evaluating the data and the metrics, because data will get you so far. Thereafter that, it becomes about the personality of an individual. It becomes about a whole raft of different things. But this guy seems to have a common sense approach. The Americans, most of the time, you don't hear too often from the Americans, so I'm not entirely sure this will be a consistent theme from him, right. Of how he's engaging. But he is, and it's no surprise to me, he's not going to sit here and suggest that he's going to talk about salary caps. Given the fact that they are Bournemouth, he's a new owner, it's a sound bite that perhaps Todd Bowley could have listened to a little bit more of when he started talking about All-Star games.
Yeah. Yeah, the Golden Knights, of course. I'm being corrected there by a couple of people. They won the Stanley Cup. Thank goodness I'm not working over in the US this morning, Stuart. He does seem a very pragmatic individual, Stuart. Transfer hopes, yeah. We're going to do a lot of business that may raise the odd eyebrow. European success, well, why not? Why not?
If I was a fan of Bournemouth, everything that he's suggested there would resonate with me. Sustainability for the football club, new training facility, potentially new stadium, and a balanced view on where he thinks it can take the club. Not boom or bust. I don't think he ever talked boom or bust. We can win the Premier League in however many years, it's whatever. It's, can we work our way up the division? Can we bring people in? And also, as well, investing in the playing staff as well. He's mentioned all those things. So I think it was a pretty good interview.
Want to hear from Bournemouth fans this morning. Obviously, we're impressed by Bill Foley. I certainly was over the weekend when I spoke to him. What are your thoughts on it, now that he's elaborated more on the situation on Gary O'Neill and why they decided to part company, as difficult a decision as that was, but still it's one they took, why they've gone for Andoni Iraola and what they hope to do under Iraola.